Tony, just with COVID restrictions the last couple of years and this being your first true road test, any concern about the guys handling the environment this weekend?
They haven't given the coaching staff reason to. Consistency has been something that we haven't really preached. It's just been a commonality that we've kind of used as an answer to guys like you all that want to know what's been a strength of the team. And they seem to approach things with a similar enthusiasm, day in and day out, regardless of what the task is or what day of the week it is or the weather or anything like that. Now, there's reason for this to cause a little more excitement. I mean, you're going to play in front of a sellout crowd and things like that. So the guys will need to temper their emotions or at least be under control, but we have the Houston trip to fall back on as experience in doing so.
What makes this Ole Miss lineup so effective?
Experience, strong coaching, tradition in the program, experience in a lot of those at-bats. I mean, Mr. Elko's like 2 years younger than I am. I've run into him a few times. He's definitely cooler than I am and a better hitter too. But he sits in the middle of the thing, and he's surrounded by guys that are very athletic and guys who have a lot of at-bats underneath their belt.
We'll go Vincent and Wes.
Tony, you guys in SEC play have won 6 straight road series. What are traits that lead to success in SEC play?
Yeah, on the road, having Sean Hunley and Liam and Max too. And I say that kind of jokingly, but also applauding those guys' efforts because they're the ones that, along with the other players that get credit for last year's. This will be a new script with this year's group. But you can pay attention to the qualities that those two guys in the middle infield brought to the table last year and reasons why Sean Hunley, or you guys will speak with Redmond later on, guys like that, Camden Sewell, have been successful in Hoover or in a regional or on the road, and you can follow that lead. And I think our guys are familiar with those players because they either played with them or they watched them on TV as a future Vol last year.
Tony, a couple of things. One, I don't know the last time we asked you about Blade and Seth. How are things going there? And do you feel like they could return fairly soon? And if they did, would it both have to be bullpen first?
Yeah, it would be, long toss, stretch it out, bullpen first, face our hitters first, and then pitch in some sort of game. And both guys, I can tell you, are literally in my face about I don't need I don't need to be babied when it's back. I want to be in the fire. And that's a literal quote. So I appreciate that, but it's also the coaching staff's job to put our team and also them in the best position to be successful. And the one thing we don't want with either guys, as far as that category goes, is the old 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So it has been a little slow for folks like you or fans and definitely the 2 kids, but we're building up at a pretty good rate right now. And Blade just threw this morning. He's not very far off at all from being able to see game action. Seth Halverson was ahead of him, but has had a couple setbacks, the main one being wisdom teeth being pulled, so missed a few days of throwing there, but he won't be far behind Blade. I don't think so.
And then when you look at your lineup and those numbers, I know last year you go into conference play and the power numbers hadn't quite gotten there yet, and then they really started to go up. This year they've been there from the beginning. Did you see this much power from your lineup this year when you were kind of thinking in your head how things would go?
I think the last 2 years there's been a little bit of flavor there that has shown. 2 of our staff members and myself, we had a club at Arkansas that kind of did similar damage in the fall and the spring. And those months don't actually predict exactly what's going to go on in the spring, but there are certain patterns. And it wasn't necessarily home runs. It was just guys that looked more physical than they did the year before, or guys who were getting after it in the weight room, and then the ability to drive the ball in general, whether it goes over the fence or not. It can sometimes depend on the day or the park you play in. I mean, we murdered some balls in Houston, and then the other night they hit 3 out to left. We hit 3 that normally would go out to center, but the wind was blowing in that night. So we've just kind of seen a pattern there of guys taking the nutrition, the sleep, the weight training stuff very seriously, and then the ability to drive the ball. So it'll come and go, and you've seen it with our hitters. I mean, there's been guys that are clearly the best guy in the lineup that one day or even for a whole weekend, but then the next weekend they're behind some others in that category. So we'll live with the ups and downs, in particular with a lineup that's like last year, 9-1 or 1-9. We feel like we got a thread in there.
Arthur in the back.
Coach, you guys did go play Texas. You mentioned that earlier. What do you feel like you can take away from that? It wasn't a series, but it was a single game, but one of the top teams in the country.
Yeah, starting with that day, but then the other days too is I use the phrase, temper your emotions or something similar to that. The old coaching thing, you got to be in control of yourself before you can be in control of your performance or the game or the outing or whatever it might be. And our guys were a little too geeked up to go down there, and I think it hurt them. Similarly, we go to Chattanooga and play in front of, I got to believe, the biggest crowd in the fall, this country, the country, the whole country included. And our guys wanted to please that crowd so badly that it hurt their performance. So there are certain things about playing in the SEC or wearing a power tee on your chest or going on the road that make it a lot more fun and is a topic of discussion, in particular for you guys. But it also is all things that happen outside the lines. So, making sure you kind of know what works for you. Some guys get a little more amped up. Some guys like to be relaxed. Some guys have their routines. But paying attention to what works for you between the lines is what you got to roll with. And I think we've had a level of consistency with our guys because they've taken that to heart and have at the very least paid attention to it. You're never going to quite master that. That's the beauty of baseball. But they've taken that to heart and I think have worked at it.
We'll do a few more. We've got Jake and then we'll go Joseph, Ryan, Ben.
Tony, just what have you seen from Ben Joyce, how consistent he's been able to produce, and what does his timeline look like at this point? He's still kind of coming back with this injury as well.
Yeah, I think he's ready to rock and roll as much as we want to let him. And I know the fans, it's almost like a carnival when he comes in the game, and the other team even gets excited. So the bad guy is me when we take him out of the game. But there's been kind of a plan there is let's get to SEC play with as many repetitions as possible. So there's been a lot of short outings. But he's had the 1-2 inning stint. I think he's fully capable, based off the way he's trained, of going 2, 3, 4 innings if need be. But for now, we feel like he's become no longer a fun project, and then, it was a prospect, and then a guy that we can use in certain situations. Now I feel like we can use him in any situation that we feel, again, puts him in a successful spot as well as the team, and then let him roll as long as we think. So his progress overall, along with Jared Dickey, is something that we will throw in front of guys' faces nonstop in years to come. Just tremendous examples of growing in every single area. The self-belief on Ben's face when he's on the mound, I can't tell you how different it is than 6-7 months ago.
Joseph?
Tony, you mentioned that Ole Miss comes with a lot of experience, and your pitching staff, especially the starters, are pretty young. What are you expecting out of them going into this weekend?
Our starters? Yeah, I think, again, you fall back. It's an easy one, but you fall back on the fact they got to pitch in front of a bunch of scouts on the MLB network, Major League Stadium, against big-name teams, and that helped. But every team in our league is a rival. I can't tell you, and I don't mean to disrespect anybody, or maybe you guys have a different theory. We don't have one particular rival in the league, and when I was at Arkansas, I think we'd say the same thing there. There's a unique little deal at each spot. Each place you travel to has some stereotypes. You would say their fans, the environment is like this, their program is like this. We've got a history with this team that's kind of evolved into this. So it'll be up to them to kind of follow the lead of the older guys and understand what it's like to play in Oxford. The times we do play Mississippi, obviously it's combative. I mean, it's like that with every team in our league. Now, they're not in our division. So it'll be its own entity. It won't be Houston. And so our guys will need to rely on, the past successes they've had, but also navigate the waters of what a new weekend is. And the key to doing that is to not build it up in anything bigger than it is. And I think the freshmen did a nice job of that last week. Blake Burke, any freshman you would name, just because it's labeled an SEC game doesn't mean it's not a game.
I know you're not looking ahead to Vanderbilt any, but those two series back to back, probably your hardest two on paper. Do you like being thrown in the fire like that early in SEC play?
I think, I'm wearing a uniform, but I throw BP. I ain't playing in the game. So to take your question in a different direction, I think, and I hope I'm right, I think the guys like that. And that doesn't mean they're cocky or they think they're going to win every game or they are looking ahead and let's do this or that. But I think they want to be tested and they want to be challenged. And it doesn't matter what the brand name of the opponent is or if you're home or away Tuesday, you're going to be challenged. I mean, it's baseball. It's probably, again, no disrespect to any other sport, but it's probably a little crazier than any other, where if you're a little above 500, it's a really good year. We just said by to Kelly's team. I mean, you don't want to be 500 in basketball. So our guys have treated every day, including yesterday. You know, this time of year, you're not that fired up about practice, but it's a challenge. And I think guys on our team look forward to it, and they like when the fire is a little hotter, and they'll have a chance to prove that.
Finish the page in the back. We're gonna get the players, so I'm gonna wrap Tony up here. Go ahead, Hayden.
Do you think, I guess with Blake and Simo and Jared, you know, I guess is it kind of like spinning a roulette wheel to see who's going to play DH for you this weekend?
Yeah, sometimes it's like that in the hotel room. You can text me your vote on Friday if you want on who you think it should be. But, you know, you kind of look at matchups, but you don't want to blow that out of proportion either, because one thing we put in front of our guys is these scouting reports. But, again, it's not Major League Baseball, so the sample size can be relatively small. I think it's important for our guys to realize, all right, I don't have control when the coach puts me in, but when he does, that means he thinks I'm the best guy for the job, so there's no reason I shouldn't think I'm the best guy for the job. And to be honest with you, these kids on our team or any other kid, you know, you don't battle with the coach for playing time other than proving, you know, with your work ethic you're ready to go. But the guys on the bench should be thinking they're the best guy for the job. And so they should be watching the game as if they're in that situation to pinch run or to pinch hit, or they're the DH for the day. So we'll go with what we think is the best move on Friday. And then the one thing I like about our kids is they are that. They are in the game. So in the fourth inning, if we want to pinch run or make a quick change, I feel like the guys are ready, and the guy will knock them up that's coming out of the game and say, go get them, you know, do as well as I think that I would have done in that spot.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you.